Asians are hardworking. They're very good at math.
But they're not innovative.
Not innovative, and they're certainly not entrepreneurs. You know, how, it's not possible. That's a white guy thing, you know?
Yeah. I think one of the things that we've noticed over the last decade or so is increasingly countries have come to realize you can't count on the US. How can you count on a country that on major issues makes commitments and then say, I don't like it, 2 years later and say...
But I mean, is this a fault of the character of the United States? I mean, from your perspective, you've lived in the United States. I'm an American citizen. Yeah. Is it a fault of our character or our system?
It's a combination of the two.
Oh.
Like you said, racism is a serious issue where all of a sudden, let's take the refugees from Ukraine because they're blonde and blue-eyed. They're not uncivilized like all the others.
Well, but I mean, you know, this is true. I mean, look, if something bad happens in a Muslim country or Hispanic country where people aren't white, they're Asian, you know, they're not like us civilized white people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, character.
But do you think people understand how that is playing?
Well, however they play it, you actually had issues over the last couple of years against Asian Americans or Chinese Americans, including second, third generation, getting beaten up on the street because they're Chinese.
Not only beaten, killed.
Killed.
Yeah, that lady just died with the hammer attack.
So you actually have a situation, there is some character issues here. Because I think, like you said, most Americans are very warm. I lived in the States for 30 years. I think what really is a problem for many Americans today is the unwillingness to accept that there is a multipolar world. Yeah, but, there are others who are coming
but
up.
You know, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and here's the problem. We told the world and China in 2001 when they came to WTO, listen, if you work hard, you're smart, you're innovative, okay, the world is your oyster. Free competition, open markets. You know, this is what's going to, you know, here's the gold brass ring. And as soon as a Chinese company reaches out and tries to grab it, all of a sudden, oh, that's not fair. You're not really actually supposed to do anything innovative because you're Asian. And we know Asians are hardworking. They're very good at math.
But they're not innovative.
Not innovative, and they're certainly not entrepreneurs. You know, how it's not possible. That's a white guy thing. You know.
Yeah.
Not even women. White guy. Yeah.
Not white women. No.
Well, white women have their uses, but you know, producing white guys, right? This is what I mean about hypocrisy. For the last 40 years, where has the U.S. gone? Sideways. If you're a low, especially lower middle class American, white or anything, it's declined.
That's right.
But I mean, basically, they've been told by each party, "I care about you. I'm going to take care of you," and it hasn't happened. And I can understand why they've lost faith in the system and how they feel that somehow they've been cheated. All right, but you know, the press and the government always tries to make it seem like they stole your jobs. Right. I was chairman of the state of Wisconsin's international committee. I used to laugh. People say, "Oh, they're stealing our jobs." I said, "Oh, really? Did they come in the middle of the night?" and they take them? I mean, what happened? Where is the culpability of the corporations? All right, who said, "Listen, we have to. We're going to go. Why? Because we can make more money." And here's the other why: if you don't go, your competitor will.
Exactly.
And you'll be out of a job.
Exactly. You'll be out of
business.
You'll be out
and everybody who works for you will be out.
Okay. No, there's no question. There is the spin put by the government as well as the media, by both the Republican and Democratic Party.
But why do people believe it?
Because it's very easy to have an identified enemy and to challenge that identified enemy.
And this, I'm going to agree with you, this cowboy mentality.
That's right.
I'm wearing the white hat.
Yeah.
Where's the guy with the black hat? We have to have a showdown. This is about good and evil.
That's right.
And I think this is probably one of our greatest drawbacks, is that it's necessary to have
But it's part of the system, too. What you're looking at is one guy has enough money to burn for 100 generations. Yeah. And then you have 500,000 people living on the street. It doesn't work. Now, go back to the system again. I think there's some serious problems with the system when what is happening now? Inflation, 7.5% last month. Where is it going to go next, right?
Yeah.
One of the easiest and the quickest way to address, at least alleviate partially the inflation issue, is to lift those ridiculous tariffs on Chinese goods.
But
Which
politically,
improves
they
that.
won't.
That's the whole issue. Politically, they won't. Biden could have done it a year ago, but he didn't.
Why? He's afraid. He's timid. He's afraid of a Republican shadow. He's
That's
in
right.
office. But he,
There is something wrong with a government, modern society government, that cannot take a decision that is good for its society, for its population, for its people,
but you know,
because of inter-party
okay.
politics.
So let's go back to this thing about a character. I think a lot of our character is formed by this idea that somehow you have two groups battling each other, and somehow truth and justice will come out of it. You have two Republicans who go to a white nationalist convention to speak.
So they can get votes.
So,
Yeah.
And money. I used to run political campaigns. I know well the kind of deals that had to be made in order to get somebody's support. If you wanted the realtor support, they'd always have a piece of legislation that they were saying, this is something we'd like you to consider. The shorthand being, if we back you, you help us pass it. I used to remember talking to politicians and their aides, and there's one reason I couldn't stomach politics. I got away from it was they didn't care at all. It was all a game. There's no things. But I mean, the political system seems almost to the point of being bankrupt. It's not serving the internal interests. The United States is more divided than I have ever seen it since the Civil War.
Ever more dangerous for the rest of the world.
In the past, in the United States, we've had problems. We had the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
We had civil rights.
Yeah.
We've had, and we've always,
1968.
you were on the line.
That's right.
You were Mr. Peace.
Martin Luther King.
You're
marching.
You're one of those commies who wanted to have a fair shake, regardless of your skin color. What kind of horrible person are you?
As a minority, I got a scholarship.
Oh, you're playing the minority card here.
Absolutely.
You're not going to get along well with Clarence Thomas.
No.
Because, wait a second. He did take advantage of all that stuff until he's, yes. But now on the Supreme Court, what is he doing? He's against affirmative action.
That's right.
I mean, this is the hypocrisy that you see on a daily basis. And where is the press in pointing it out? How ridiculous is this? I mean, and yet it's being brought up.
Yeah,
I mean,
time and again.
And repetition, time after time, you hear this in the press. People can't separate the rhetoric, the false
reality.
Narratives, and the reality.
Like many Mexican Americans who moved to the U.S. are now against other Mexicans.
Yes. They're voting for
immigrate.
Trump. They think he's
That's
a great guy. Oh, they'll build the wall. They'll keep those people out. In almost every group of new immigrants, as soon as the first ones come, the last thing they want is more coming. And that was true in the Irish and Italian communities. They just stopped outreaching. Why? It was economic competition. They're afraid that their jobs would go to somebody who would come in cheaper. But I mean, it's just been a constant stream of immigrants. Why can't we come to terms with the fact that...
On a philosophical basis, Einar, on a philosophical basis, I've always thought that the U.S. Constitution, brilliant piece of writing or organization or structure, but now, this time around, just before the Civil War was one situation, but this time around, it's beginning to dawn on me that the changes that's required in the U.S. are so fundamental.
What would you say? What is it about the American system that needs to change?
I think there are a couple of things. Number one, the whole preaching of head honcho.
Or number one, America.
And
I
we
never
will
know
never
what that
tolerate or accept another party to challenge our supreme position and so on.
So hegemony. We have
hegemony. In reality, so the whole education system and the press and the politicians' preachings are against the realities of the world.
But what are we afraid of? Isn't that a sign of a lack of of
Self-confidence. Exactly.
When you have to be running around screaming, we're number one.
That's
I
right.
mean, I really don't see that with many other countries, period.
I don't see it with any country.
But I mean, if you're trying too hard, doesn't that mean you're trying to cover something up?
I think it's the attempt is to cover up weakness.
But why should we weak? We have
800
incredible
bases
population.
all over the world.
Yeah, I don't like the cost factor. I mean, we're spiraling into a debt trap.
Over 30 trillion.
And we still have 800 bases around the world.
That's right.
And that was after World War II. I think there was a sense that, look, the Europeans will drag us into World War III unless we do something. They cannot be trusted. We thought everything was settled by World War I, then they get us to World War II. So we have to take the bull by the horns. Because before that, we were very isolationist. We didn't want anything to do with anybody.
Monroe Doctrine.
That's not isolation. That's democratic, dictatorial. The American. We can take control over sovereign nations because they're south of us and we're stronger than them. Okay. And anybody who comes in, that's our backyard.
Yeah.
But that's different. That's just a little hypocrisy. Or was it a big one? All the people who died, the 20 countries who suffered assassinations, regime attempts, change attempts, things like that. That was all for the betterment of South America. I think I've talked to a lot of South American ambassadors and they realized that this was all for the greater good.
Of Chile killing Allende, you know.
Well, I think it was the greater good of the U.S., nothing to do with the greater good of them. But I mean, there was this real feeling that they needed to do something to put the world in order. And that idea was that we would get everyone to follow our system. So when we start the United Nations, we're going to have, a rational way of controlling things, avoiding war, all this type of stuff. But at a certain point, it turned negative in the sense that instead we tried to impose our system not by having people aspire to it, all the good things. I remember, Coca-Cola, I don't know regardless of what you thought of it, American culture, 50s, 60s, 70s was supreme. Everybody wanted it. Blue jeans.
Hollywood did a wonderful job.
Yeah. But I mean, there was this sense of aspiration. The reality underneath it might not have been as clean. But at a certain point, we just said, no, we're going to impose this on everybody. And after the Berlin Wall collapses and the Soviet Union dissolves.
Even more.
Yeah, but
chest thumping there.
But this is the thing. The arrogance is what always comes before the downfall of an empire.
What would turn things around is I remember, I wasn't there, but I remember
are
reading,
you sure?
I took a few history lessons.
No, I heard you had a pet dinosaur. Yeah. Go ahead.
Economic history, the Sherman Antitrust Act.
Yeah.
Why did that happen? Because the oligarchs at that time, the Rockefellers, Standard Oil of New Jersey, AT&T, were just so dominant over the economy that
and seeking more dominance.
That's right.
Yeah.
They became a threat to the whole political system. So you had the Antitrust Act that actually broke them up. Okay, AT&T, you split up. It took some very serious and strong politician with a strategic view for the long-term good of the country to be able to do that. You have the Marshall Plan. That was quite strategic as well. The building of infrastructure.
Yeah, but let's look at the Marshall Plan. Okay, where did the money go? Did it go to our allies?
No, it went to American companies.
Well, no, it went to the areas we conquered. I mean, it was good in the sense it rebuilt Germany, it rebuilt Japan, who later on became our competitors because they had new factories and machinery.
More efficient.
I think that was a balancing game. There was a strong feeling.
But it was strategic.
Yeah.
It was for the long-term good of the U.S.
I know, but if we can sit here and talk about this, surely there are plenty of people in Europe who can understand that we don't always act in the best interest of others. We act in the best interest of ourselves.
That's right. Increasingly, people are recognizing that.
Yeah, but I mean, does that have to be the reality? Does every empire just have to beat its chest and knock everybody down? Or is there another way?
Well, no, they can scream and yell like they did with China trade, right? Scream and yell all you want.
That kind of naked self-interest.
Naked self-interest. But the days when they can push what's good for America is good for the rest of the world, the days of pushing that, I think it's over.
We still have the money in the West, Europe and America.
And the military power.
Yeah, but that to me has a really bad recipe.
Yeah, it is.
If I have money and I have military power, but I'm losing my economic and political power, doesn't that basically curtail my options?